Hey everybody, welcome back to In Bed with the Millennial. I'm the Millennial Javeda Bay, and this is my bed, and it's still April, which means I'm still talking about all things STIs because I want to spread awareness because it's STI Awareness Month to help destigmatize and remove the shame about all things STIs. And today I want to talk about how to talk about STIs because as per usual, we're not taught this stuff when we get sex ed in the American education system. So we're going to talk about it now because a lot of people are afraid to have conversations around STIs. So let's get into it. Why do we even need to talk about STIs? For so many reasons. One of the main reasons is because when we're avoidant of it, we don't have direct conversations, and then we just beat around the bush, and we end up in situations that are probably not ideal, and could have been avoided had we had some direct communication. Also, talking about it is how we actually help to destigmatize STIs. And so I want to talk about a few different ways that that you would generally talk about STIs. The first is with your medical provider. Extremely important because if you're going to your doctor to get STI testing, you should probably feel a little bit comfortable to just talk to them about it. So the first thing here is if you don't feel comfortable talking to your doctor about STIs or your sex life or anything like that, it might be time to find a new doctor because obviously you don't feel comfortable and vulnerable enough with them to be able to share this information. So maybe the relationship's not working. So consider that. But when it comes to having the conversation, some reminders. One, they're a doctor. They should not be surprised or have a negative reaction if you bring up talking about STIs or anything sexuality related. If they do, get out of there. They need to go back to school and learn how to actually have conversations around sex. But that's a whole other conversation. So you need to make sure that you're actually talking to somebody that has a good understanding of things so that way you can have a conversation that's not whoa. And then when talking with your doctor, one, you should be able to ask them your questions. Doctors do get an education around STIs in their medical programs. So you should be able to ask them your questions. If you're like, hey, I'm not sure if this is something related to an STI or if this is just because I'm not drinking enough water. Could you help me out to figure out what's going on here? Or, hey, I was told that if I took these antibiotics for this amount of time, this STI would go away. Is that true? Or is it going to be longer? I'm just trying to plan because I got a weekend with the boo coming up. Ask them your questions. It's okay. That's what they're there for. And also, you're paying them, so why not use them as a resource to the full capacity, and also just don't withhold information that might be important to your doctor. So if your doctor's asking you okay, how recently have you had unprotected sex, give them the real answer. Don't try and fudge the truth a little bit so that way you don't have to feel bad about it. One, there's nothing to feel bad about. It's your sex life. Do what you want. Two, you actually have to just say these things. You have to give them this information because it plays into the big picture of everything. So yeah, when it comes to talking to your doctor, be sure to be honest. Ask them your questions. And if they respond in a negative way or if they judge you because you're like, oh, I'm going to get STI testing today, they're not the doctor for you. Get out of it. Not the doctor for anyone, really. Doctors need to be much better at handling sexuality related topics and questions in the exam room. Okay, so the next conversation around having STIs is with partners. This is obviously extremely important because how you gonna be engaged in sexual activity and y'all ain't talking about this. And so when it comes to talking to partners about STIs, there's a few different approaches. The first one being direct, being straightforward, hey, before we actually engage in any sexual activity, have you been STI tested? If not, do you want to go together? Be direct. Ask the question. There's no shame in it. And also, if they respond negatively, then that's not somebody that you need to be engaging in sexual activity with, obviously. So be direct. You can also be a little bit more coy about it if you're a little bit more nervous, it's a new partner. You don't know how to bring this up because it's not something y'all previously talked about. A-okay. Obviously, starting the conversation over text message. That's always my number one recommendation. And it doesn't have to be a direct thing hey, have you been STI tested? But hey, I was thinking that we could work through some details before we engage in sexual activity with each other. Do you have a time to chat this week or whatever it might be? But starting the conversation in a way that feels a little bit more comfortable for you is extremely important. So asking a question of like, hey, do you know your status around STIs? If they say no, then y'all should proceed to do STI testing together. If they say yes and they disclose that they do have a manageable or treatable STI, then you can go further and ask them like, okay, so are you on medication to manage XYZ thing, or how's that looking for you? And then also disclosing on your side to let them know like, hey, I was actually recently tested on X date. Everything came back negative, but I do have this manageable STI as well. So how would you feel most comfortable about us proceeding in terms of sexual activity together? And again, these questions may seem like, oh my gosh, this is going to be the end of everything. One, that's a common feeling. So many people feel that way, and that's because of the way that we talk about STIs. Two, if someone responds in that way, you are not meant to have sex with them. They're obviously not mature enough. They don't understand that STIs are a fact of the matter. If you engage in sexual activity with another person, like there's always going to be a possibility. And if their reaction is negative, like, oh my God, how could you have an STI? They don't understand sex, so you don't even want to have sex with them. So yeah, just slowly go through the questions, slowly make sure you both feel informed and in the know about everything, so that way y'all can make whatever decision works for y'all. So yeah, have the conversation. It's okay if you have a lot of questions, a little bit of questions, as long as y'all both feel comfortable proceeding, that is what matters. And then the last one is talking to your friends about STIs. And you might be like, Javay, why would I talk to my friends about STIs? Like, that's weird. Firstly, it's not weird. Again, this is how we remove stigma and shame around STIs, is by having candid conversations. And you should be talking to your friends to make sure that y'all are all in community doing your part of getting STI tested, understanding safer sex practices, like share the information. Don't just withhold it. Also talking to your friends, because you might not realize that STIs are transmitted in a certain way, or you might not have realized like how frequent you should get STI tested, whatever it might be. Or if they know that the person that you're about to like start dating, is known for not disclosing STI status, like they can keep you in the loop about stuff. It's just really important to talk to everybody about STIs, because again, they're a reality of engaging in sexual activity. And in the same vein of like talking to friends about it, if you are a parent, talking to your children. Again, most sex education programs in the U.S. don't really offer comprehensive information, let alone medically accurate information. So you need to do your part to make sure your child understands STIs. They know what they are. So that way they can engage in sexual activity in a comfortable and safer manner. So don't be afraid to have that conversation. Talk to your children about STIs. Let them know like, hey, these are some STIs. This is what happens. This is how you get them. If this were to be something that you were concerned about, come to me. Let me know. We can go to the doctor together. We can get everything checked out. But don't like berate them and like, don't have sex. Y'all, we all know that that's not effective. The minute you tell somebody don't have sex, they want to have sex. So just give them the information so that way they understand everything and can make their own choices. But yeah. Talking about STIs is extremely important, though it is very difficult. I understand that. I get that. And that's why all this week, okay, maybe not all this week, but this week I am going to be dropping some conversation starters around talking about STIs with partners, with friends, with family. So you know what that means. You need to be following me on social media so that way you don't miss it. And if you have any questions about like, hey, Jave, I just started seeing this new person and I have manageable STI and I don't know how to bring up this conversation because they're new and I really like this person, whatever it might be, let me know. Hit me up. I'm here to help you. But don't be afraid to have the conversation. Don't be afraid. The people that react in a good manner are the people that you want to be around and engaging in sexual activity with. So don't worry if there's some sucky folks out there that react super negatively. They're garbage. We don't have to worry about that. But yeah, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel because more sex ed content, and definitely make sure you make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel because hello, content galore, and definitely make sure you're following me on all the social media platforms because I got different stuff on different platforms, and most definitely make sure you sign up for my email newsletter because, in case I get booted off any platforms, that's where you're gonna find me. But yeah, that's that. I'll see y'all later. Deuces.